Hello from Gardening at Dwensa here in Ireland, and it's the 13th of December today, so I'm just going to give you a very brief greenhouse update. And before we go around the greenhouse, Boo Boo just wanted to say hi. I'm just going to give you a bit of a pan around the greenhouse so you can see, well, at a glance what it looks like and if anything noticeable has changed or not. And I think probably not a whole lot is different since the last update that I gave you. Now, since that update, what's happened is I've finally gotten around to potting up my tulips. So we have 2 bowls here with tulips sowed for spring, and if we move over to the other side of the greenhouse, we have another 4 bowls of the tulips that I've sowed. Now, I've watered these once and I'm not going to water them again until I see some sign of growth. Over here we can see that Brugmansia sanguinea still has a couple of flowers, but just a couple of flowers. That one's beginning to go over there now, and I don't know if it's going to give me any more because we're into December, but they were really good while they lasted. What else can I show you? Past the bananas, Aeoniums. How's that Clivia bud doing? It's looking good, but only seems to be the one so far. But I think this poor plant got such a bad setback from being sunburnt through my carelessness in the summer that I'm glad just to get 1 flower at least. And then just moving myself strategically down the greenhouse, that there is my Puya, deadly spiky thing. Have a quick look at the Protea buds. Yes, Protea will flower soon. And we have 1 Tibouchina flower. They are so beautiful, really so beautiful. And over here we have Canna Musifolia, which continues to grow like mad. And my gorgeous Cyathea, the tree fern, here beside it. I just love the fronds. I think I'll give that another drop of water before we leave this greenhouse update. Oh look, a little friend. I hate spiders. As you'll notice, most of the dahlias have been lifted up from the greenhouse aisle at the moment, and they've been stored in paper bags and put here in a trug. Now, what happened before was, when I had these in paper bags, was that I left them in the greenhouse. I didn't bring them into the house. I put them underneath the staging on the other side, and then I watered the plants on top, and the water dripped down and wetted them, which is no good whatsoever. So I've had to re-dry them and repack them, and I'm just very careful now when I'm watering to make sure that I let no water drip into that trug, and they'll get potted up come February. Over here on the orchid table I have an Epidendrum that is actually in flower and has actually made a seed pod. Can you believe it? At these low temperatures. Now this one is ibaguense, and let's see if we can get a kind of close up of it. It's very tough plant, and this one lives all the time in the greenhouse. Probably needs a bit more TLC, but oops, I think I just knocked some of the flowers off. Over here we have Bartlettina sordida that droops when it doesn't get enough water, but you can see I've been very assiduous with my watering lately and it's looking good. And then up that side of the greenhouse, so let's have a look at some of the nice things on display on the left here. Okay, so just moving up to the top of the greenhouse, and I suppose it's the usual suspects. I mean, if I have something on this side of the greenhouse, it's because it's looking good, and yeah, and Well, it's looking good, like that Aeonium there, variegated Aeonium, looking fabulous. Veltheimia bracteata, still pushing up those 4 flower spikes. Looking forward to that coming into flower. We have down at the front Sparrmannia, africana, still flowering away, and what's it doing on the other side? Making buds here on the other side, so that'll be in full flower before very long. And I made a recent purchase here on this side of the shelf. This here. And these are, what are commonly known as paper whites, which is just daffodils. They're Narcissus, but they're a certain division of Narcissus that is a little more tender than the others. Now, a lot of people grow these for their fragrance and they grow them in the house, but I thought I'd put it out here in the greenhouse and just, you know, get a lot of scent when it comes into flower. And I have lots of buds coming. You can see there, 1. When I chose this in the shop, 2. I made sure to get the one with the most buds, 3. And that weren't so far along, 4. So that I'd, well, you know, they wouldn't go over too quickly. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So basically from 4 bulbs I'm going to get 8 flowers, 8 scented white beautiful flowers to really give a punch as you come in the greenhouse door here, and I can't wait for them to be in flower. And beside it we have the Aloe variegata that you saw me move from the bottom shelf in the last greenhouse update because it has a flower spike, so that's good. And the Cyclamen doing so well. Just a little note, if you do buy cyclamen at this time of year and put them in a cold greenhouse, what can happen is you get some mould right in at the crown, and that's because the plant has been grown in warmer conditions than your greenhouse allows. Now, if acclimatized in the correct way, this plant will be fine for next year, but you might lose flowers and foliage this year. And that's what's happening with this red one that I just recently bought for €2. Can't go wrong with €2 really. The oxalis is really coming to the end of its flowering, and that agave quadricolor is really looking good. Now I think you'll probably find it's looking better than in the last video, and the reason for that is I've given it a bit of a clean up. It had some black sooty stuff on some of the leaves, and I took that off with a bit of isopropyl alcohol, and it's just helped make it look that much sprucer. And while I had that alcohol out, in fact the real reason I took that alcohol out was I noticed a couple of plants had mealies on them and it needed addressing rather than just left to fester. So this plant here, can't remember the name of it, but you'll see it pop up above. I gave that a good going over with Q-tip dipped in isopropyl alcohol, and my bouffon also had a lot of mealies in here in the leaf axils, and I addressed all of that, so that was really good. And something else down the other end that I can't remember now, but it's good to stay on top of these things if you possibly can. And here we have my Sasanqua camellia, and we have a bud forming there, so I can't wait for that to open and scent the greenhouse. Oh, we have another one there, and is that going to be it? That might possibly be it for this year, but I hope I can catch that in flower for you, because when these single flowers open with their beautiful pink and white, they really are so lovely to look at. And there's just one more thing I wanted to remind you about while I have the video out now, and that's about my merchandise shelf, which you should see under my YouTube videos, well, depending on which country you're in. So if you see a shelf pop up there with t-shirts and mugs for sale that say Gardening at Douentza, then they are my merchandise. And if you fancy owning a product that sports the logo of your favourite YouTube channel, then please do purchase them by following the link. I'll also put the link in the details of this video. And do me a favour as well, if you can see that shelf underneath my YouTube video, please drop a comment down below telling me so and telling me what country you're in, because it's not visible to me in Ireland, so I'm going to have to take your word for it that it's there. Okay, that's all for the moment. I hope this mini greenhouse update was of interest to you. I didn't rabbit on for too long, and well, check back for lots more greenhouse stuff. Bye.